What's up guys, it's the Cheapster here, back with another video, and today what we're going to be talking about is, can you work Grubhub full-time? This is a question I hear a lot. I see it a lot of the times in the comments asking if you could do it full-time, and I would say, in my own opinion, I actually did this for a while, so I can tell you, yes, it's probably possible that you can do it full-time. Of course, all areas are very different, so I can't just say like, yeah, that you should definitely be able to do it in your area, because it really depends on how your area does with it, and if it is something you can do full-time. But I did this full-time for like a year, I think, probably in total. I've kind of been on and off, and I've always run some stuff on the side too, but it's pretty much been my full-time job for a while. And I would say that most areas, what I see, again, that this does change depending upon what area, but most areas I'd say you make about $15 to $25 an hour on average if you're going to try to do it full-time. When you start doing it full-time, you kind of start to lower the average because you can't work just those busy times of the day, because you're gonna have to probably stretch it out and work some days or some parts of the day that aren't as busy. You got to have reasonable expectations. You can't go into this thinking you're going to be pulling in like six figures. You probably won't be, although it could be possible depending upon how much you want to work per week to pull in something like six figures, especially depending on how good your area is. But it's definitely a lot better than other jobs out there. I'd say at $15 to $25 an hour average. There's a lot of jobs out there that could be a lot more just, you know, boring and super unflexible. And it's not just Grubhub either. This would be like any delivery company too. So that could be Uber Eats, DoorDash, even Postmates, maybe Instacart. There's other apps that are delivery, and I'll actually link those below. I've got referrals to a lot of those, so I'll link those in my description below if you want to check those out or sign up for any apps. So first, let's get started out with the pros and cons of working full-time. This is definitely something that is good to think through and make sure that this is something you want to do if you're going to decide to go full-time, especially if you're talking about quitting a job. I wouldn't recommend that you quit a job to go into this. I would recommend you do this on the side. Maybe if you've done it on the side and you think, you know, it's going well and you think you could do it full-time, maybe then you quit your job. But let's go into this, and here's some of the pros and cons. Starting off with the pros, it's super flexible work, so you can really just decide, you know, what do you want to do with your time, and that has been awesome. I've loved that so much. Super flexible. That is probably one of the biggest pros to it. Also, you can work as much as you want or as little as you want, and that's super great too, because you can say maybe you only want to work like and make, I don't know, $400, $500 in one week, but the next week you're like, I really want to like make some extra money for, you know, something I want to buy. You could really buckle down and work a ton of hours and maybe make like $1,000 in that week. And at a lot of other jobs, you can't do that kind of thing. So that's a really big pro to working full time at this. You also get to run it as a business, so you get to take deductions and stuff. So that really comes into play. I did do a tax video on that, so I'll link that down below in the description. I'm going to link a lot of things down below in the description in this video, but I did a tax video describing the things you have to do to file your taxes as a delivery driver and some things to help with that. So you can check that out after this video. Also, another big thing that's a pro is you can do other side work while you're doing this. So this would be like, you know, there's a lot of times where maybe it's downtime and you're sitting at home waiting for orders, so you could be doing some other different side job. Or there's even times when especially if I work at night sometimes, and I'll just be sitting in drive-thrus that are long lines where you could be doing something else, maybe on your phone, especially remote stuff. That would really be great to be able to make some extra money while you're making the money. You also get to know your city super well, and that's a pretty cool thing. I know I really enjoy it, that I definitely feel like I know my city pretty well now. Also, it does have some stresses. I will say it definitely has some stresses working for these companies, and some days can be a lot worse than others. My day today was terrible, but overall it's pretty easy work that is usually pretty relaxing. I mean, once you get the hang of it, especially once you know like what restaurants are good and what restaurants aren't to avoid them, it's usually a pretty low stress, easy working time. But getting into the cons of it, first off, you need to track your miles and your expenses for taxes. So I actually made a video on this that I'll link down below on tracking your miles and talking about what kind of expenses you could take. I did that in a tax video. Also, I really recommend Hurdler. That's a really good app that I'll link also below. Like I said, I'm linking a lot of things below. That's an app that helps you track your miles. It can even track them what's called semi-automatically, where you just turn it on and in the background it'll figure out what trips you took. You can also do it manually on there. Really recommend Hurdler. I think it's a great app, so you can sign up for that down below in the description. Also, there are no benefits included when you're working full-time for these companies, so that's definitely something to keep in mind, that is some lost pay that you're going to have to make up for. If you were working at a different company, you would get those benefits and stuff. Definitely think about that. There are some apps, like I know Stride is one that really helps with like getting healthcare for drivers and stuff. So there is stuff out there. There's other ways to get those benefits without getting them directly from the company. And sometimes it might be a better cost to work for like Grubhub or something than to work for another company. You could probably make more money even paying for those insurances and stuff outside of the company, out of your own pocket. So definitely something to look into there. Another con is the wear and tear in your vehicle. You definitely are going to have more wear and tear. Like this is definitely just something you're going to have to know. You're going to put a lot of wear and tear in your vehicle. Gas costs too. Obviously, you're going to spend a lot on gas. You can cut down on that by using GetUpside, which is an app that gives you cash back at a lot of pumps around you. It's pretty great. It really is just like free cash back. I will link that down below in the description if you want to sign up for it. It's a really great app. It's literally just free money if you do delivery driving. So there's really no reason not to sign up for it. Also, earnings can really shift around. That's another con. It's just not always stable what you're making in your city. You might be working it and thinking, oh, you know what? I can pull in like $1,000 a week if I work this much time. And then maybe something happens, like maybe what happened last March. And actually you would think that made things better, but actually it didn't. In my area, it made it a lot worse. So things can happen, like earnings can really shift around. You can think that you've got it set up and then something changes and it just isn't as good as it was. So that's definitely a con. And then probably the biggest con is that you're really just at the mercy of the app if you can work for them, and you have way less representation than like a normal company. I mean, there's not really an HR to talk to. Customer service is pretty terrible for most of these companies. I would say that's pretty much just what it is. But I will say there is a company that you can use called Cover. I've actually done a video on that in the past, and they do help with things like if you get deactivated wrongfully, helping you with that. They can help you with some like kind of out of work insurances. If you get into an accident and you aren't able to work, they can cover some of that. So that's something you can check out. I'll put a link down below in the description for that too. But that's it for the cons there. Getting into, I guess, the best ways to make it work full time, and then I'll talk about some of the things to watch out for if you're going to do it full time. The first thing, the best way to make it work full time would be to make sure you know your area is going to be good enough to make enough money. That's why I'd always pretty much recommend that you start this as a side thing first, and then maybe go into full time, because it's going to be something that you're going to want to make sure your area can actually make that kind of money and can consistently make that kind of money if you're going to do it full time. Because a lot of areas I don't think necessarily can. If you're in a big city, you're probably much better off and you probably can do it. But if you're in a smaller city, you may have some issues with that. So definitely you want to make sure that your area can support you if you want to do it full time. Also, you want to learn your area super well, so you definitely want to make sure that you're figuring out what times of the day make the most money. Usually that's going to be dinner time, weekends. Those are usually going to be the times of the week that are going to make the most money, or the times of the day. Which a benefit to that is you probably could just work weekends and pretty much make full-time pay if you want to give up your weekends, because weekends are usually so good. You could just say, I'm going to work Friday, Saturday, Sunday, have the rest of my week off. A lot of times that can work in your area, so that's a super awesome flexible thing. Also, I would say a big thing that you should do to make this work is to work for more than one company. So there's, like I said, DoorDash, Uber Eats, Postmates. Figure out which ones are good in your area and how much you can make, like, you know, doing those, and maybe do more than one. You could also try other things like Instacart, Shipped, there's Amazon. There's just a bunch of things that you could do for delivery, and I always think signing up for more of them, or at least having them that you're signed up for and ready to go if something happens with another one, or maybe that company doesn't do well. It's just a good idea anyway. But you may also find that one is better in your area than another, and maybe, you know, you thought you wanted to work for Grubhub, but Uber Eats is actually super great in your area, so you want to work for them. And maybe then Uber Eats isn't great, you want to work for Grubhub. Like, it really just helps you to have that so that you can find the best way. You can also do a combination of both. I mean, it might be better to say Uber Eats works well on Mondays, Grubhub's terrible on Mondays, so you work Uber Eats on Monday, and then Grubhub's better on Tuesday than Uber Eats, so you work Grubhub on Tuesday. Figuring out those combinations, they can be kind of a hard thing at first, but that stuff can really help you to make this work if you want to do this full time. Also, having all these apps also will help you if an app shuts you down, because that is something that can happen for different reasons. We'll talk about that in a second, but that kind of gives you some more protection in case something happens. So definitely try to be signed up for more of them, and that should really help you to find the best way to make the most money and to protect yourself from getting shut down, or, you know, just not being able to work if something happened to that app. You don't want to just be relying on one thing and then suddenly it's gone. The next thing would be to try to make sure you have somewhat of a regular schedule to the amount of money or the amount of hours that you want to make per week. Really, that's up to you, just setting whatever goal you want to set and then sticking to it. Usually I'd say that it's probably best to set like how much you want to make per week and then figure out how much you need to work and then kind of try to work until you hit that goal every week. That will definitely help keep you motivated, because this is on you. I mean, this is going to be a self-employed job fully if you are doing this full time. So it's on you. Like, you've got to be the one to put in the hours and get out there and actually work to make the money. So you got to make sure that you're making a plan so that you're actually going to make the money that you need to do this full time. This will also really help you realize your area, if it's going to work. If you start to make a plan and say, okay, I need this much money to do this, then you could say, okay, well, I'm going to go out and try to do it. And you could find out really quickly, is this actually going to work? Are you going to be able to support yourself full time doing this in your area to be able to reach those goals? Also, another thing would be to get an affordable car, because you're going to be driving a lot and you're going to be in your car a lot. So what I drive is a 2014 Honda Civic. To me, it's a great car because it's still super reliable. The mileage is still pretty low. I don't even think I've hit 75,000 miles yet on it. Really low cost already from the beginning. So it doesn't depreciate a ton, and that really helps keep expenses down so that when you're driving, you're not really just burning through your car and using a bunch of money that you're gonna have to buy a new car pretty soon after that. And also another thing that I would recommend is finding other side work. I mentioned this before, but find other things that you can do, preferably remote. So like what I do, I also sell on eBay. So sometimes it's easy for me to be, you know, listing things or looking for things to buy that I'm going to sell while I'm sitting in a drive-through line or sitting at home waiting for orders, or maybe I'm packaging things up while I'm at home waiting for orders. Just some stuff like that. You know, it could be whatever. Just think outside the box here on what could work while you're doing this, because that really can help you stack money on. So maybe you don't need to make as much doing this full time. But also, let's get into the things to watch out for. So this is what's really important in making sure that if you're going to do this full time, that you're protected and you're not going to end up with being stuck with not being able to make enough money, or things that you just didn't know that you had to look out for. So starting out with one is one that everybody loves, and that's tax time. Definitely something you're gonna have to make sure that you pay attention to. You're gonna make sure you track your miles. You've got to make sure you track your miles. Again, like I said, I did a video on this that helps you learn how to correctly track your miles. Also, Hurdler, like I said, the link is in the description below for that, to sign up for it to help track your miles. You can either do that manually, semi-automatically. That will be a very big deal at tax time. That's not something you want to miss. Also, you'll most likely need to pay estimated quarterly taxes, and yeah, that's a difficult thing to deal with. So I would say that's also another part of this, something to watch out for. It's more confusing at tax time to make sure you know what you're doing, so you want to make sure you have the right help. When you're working for it part-time, you kind of don't have to look out for certain things, but if you're working for it full-time, you're starting to make more money. There's going to be more stuff that comes up, like estimated quarterly tax payments, that you probably won't be able to avoid because you'll owe so much money, you'll have to deal with them. Also, people will say you'll have to pay more in self-employed taxes, but I would argue that that's not necessarily true as a delivery driver. I'm going to be doing a video soon on this, because it is true that you'll have to pay more percentage of tax when it comes to tax time, but I would argue that actually once you look at how much deductions you can take with your mileage deductions and stuff, you actually might be paying less in taxes than working a different job or like a normal job. So that's something that I would argue, but you will have to pay more in a percentage of tax when it comes to tax time. That's again where you want to make sure you have the right help to help you at tax time to figure all that out. Also, you want to make sure you have a policy for your car insurance for delivery. So you should have this anyway, no matter what. Even if you're working part-time, this isn't something you should skimp on, because you might not realize that you could be unprotected if you're driving around doing this part-time and you hit a Mercedes. You're going to be paying for that Mercedes, and your insurance might say, oh, you did this while you were working. We don't cover that. And then when you're working full time, you're going to be on the road, and you're going to be putting yourself at way more risk because you're going to be on the road so much. So definitely something to look out for and to make sure you get. So you can get a commercial policy. Those are usually pretty expensive. So what I always recommend is getting a write-on delivery policy. Like I have Progressive. There's not every company that does this, but I know Progressive does it. You can get a policy that they'll actually write on that you do delivery driving, so it's also included in your insurance. It costs a little bit more, but I think I only pay like $20 a month month or something more to have that right onto my policy so that I'm protected when I'm actually out driving. That's a big one, because you don't want to end up in a situation where you didn't do that and then you get into a wreck and you've got to pay that out of pocket. Also, another thing to watch out for is getting banned from the app. So there's multiple ways you could get banned. Most of it is usually going to come down to if you pick up an order and you don't deliver it. Basically, if you're stealing the food, stuff like that, that stuff will obviously get you banned. Don't do that kind of stuff. Also, multi-apping could get you banned. So if you're like working Grubhub and DoorDash at the same time and you're taking orders for both of them at the same time, they're both tracking your location. So they could see, oh, hey, that he keeps going off to a different area when he's supposed to be making a delivery. And they might realize, hey, you're trying to work for somebody else. You're not doing the job efficiently. So you could get banned for that kind of stuff. I don't recommend multi-apping in that way, where you take multiple orders from 2 different companies. Don't think that that's good, and you can really easily get banned for doing that kind of stuff. So I don't recommend that. But then another thing to watch out for is to keep up with your car. So like I said before, this is going to be your business car now. So you're going to want to make sure that you're really keeping up with this and keeping it in a good condition. So make sure you're always keeping it tuned up, because that's going to be really important, more than you would a normal car. Make sure you're keeping up with the oil changes and all that kind of stuff, because you want the car to last. And the longer you can extend that car life and not have to hassle with repairs and stuff, is going to be better for you. It's going to cost you less over the time and wear and tear on the vehicle doing this kind of stuff full time. That's a big one. Also, I would say there's a lot of safety things with that too. Kind of just goes in with tune-ups, but keeping up with tire pressure, tire tread, things like wipers. You might not think wipers are that big of a deal till you're trying to go out delivering for 8 hours in a day where it's thunderstorming, and then you'll realize having good wipers is something really important actually for your safety. Yeah, just keeping up with that kind of stuff with your car, that's really going to help you out. So that's my advice on delivering full time. Like I said, not all areas it's completely doable, but I think for most areas, especially bigger cities, this is definitely something you could do to work full time. You may have to work more hours. You may not just be able to work 40 hours in your area. Maybe you have to work a little bit more to make it work, but maybe that's worth it to you to be able to maintain the flexibility and stuff of doing this kind of job. But yeah, another thing I would say is that you got to make sure the motivation is going to be on you. You will be a self-employed worker if you're doing this full time. So you got to make sure you're keeping up with it. Make sure that you're getting out there and that you're doing the work, or else it's not going to work, because then if you're not doing the work, the money's not going to come. But I will say it can really be an awesome work-life balance just to be able to turn on and off whenever you want. I've loved it. I've loved just being able to say I work for myself, and I can just turn off whenever I want. I could go on vacation next week if I was just like, oh, I'll work extra this week and just go on vacation next week. You know, it's pretty awesome to have that kind of flexibility. I think that's worth a lot. It's also really great to just be able to say I can work more at one point and work less at another point. Really great to be able to have that. Make sure you check out all the descriptions down below. So there's Hurdler, GetUpside, Cover, and any of the other app signups and stuff. I'll link also all the videos I mentioned and stuff. All that stuff, it can really help you. I've been doing this for years, so I've definitely learned a lot of things that can help you do this part-time or full-time, but especially as a full-time worker. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this video was helpful. If you guys liked the video, make sure you do the cheapest thing you can today and tap that like button. Also subscribe to the channel. We just busted past the halfway point and are already running down the track. Thank you guys for that. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys in the next video. And remember, stay cheap.
That's cheap. You still haven't subscribed?